I am so excited to welcome you not only to Jacksonville, but to the launching of the podcast called The Covenant, more specifically, the Sister Covenant. And yes, I did say sister. What is the covenant, the Sister Covenant? It is a circle of friends, my friends for 20, 30, 40 plus years, your friends, all of our friends, coming together in a safe space at a time such as this. We as women of color, we are counted on to nurture our families, our children, our significant others, our spouses, our community, our corporate boardrooms, and everything in between. But who fills our cup? I think about flying, and when we get ready to take off, what is said to us first? Put your oxygen mask on first before you can assist others. And that exactly is what the Sister Covenant is all about. A safe space to encourage, to listen, to cry a little, laugh a lot, but most important, to empower and to fill our cup. Good morning, great Sunday morning, and welcome to the 6th month of the Sister Covenant. To God be the glory. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being a part of our journey. 6 months, y'all. It has been simply amazing. Today, we have a powerful, and I know I say that every podcast, but this one is all about living our best life, self-aware, and doing it in style, grace, and with self-care for ourselves. So the women that are on our panel today will enlighten us, inspire us, and empower us to do just that. But before we get to that, I have to cover a few tidbits just so that you can help us touch more lives. So thank you for purchasing your beautiful Sister Covenant merchandise. We have done some phenomenal partnerships with charities over the last 6 months. We are now moving into our next season of our partnership with UNCF. But before we get to that one, for the last 3 months, we have been in partnership with a phenomenal nonprofit organization, Brown Girls in the Boardroom. And today we have one of our previous phenomenal sisters with us, Melissa Fulmore Hardwick. Melissa, as you know, is a CIO by day, but by night, she is the founder and the executive director of Brown Girls in the Boardroom. Welcome, Melissa. Is Melissa in the boardroom with us? Hi there. How are you, my dear?
Beautiful. I am wonderful. Thank you so much, Pat.
Great Sunday morning. Isn't it an amazing day?
It is. It is. And I'm excited. I'm excited to be sitting here looking at so many beautiful women on this great getting up Sunday morning. So
that's right. Well, we want to know just really quick, what are Brown Girls in the Boardroom? What are they up to, and what do you have on tap for them as we near the summer and, just feeling good about getting out?
Sure.
Yeah.
So certainly we're excited about the things that we've done to this point, and super excited and grateful to you for the partnership. Every brown girl needs an Auntie Pat in their lives. And so I'm excited to be surrounded by women that can help influence this nonprofit. But we've established our board, took the last 2 months to do that. We've gotten some amazing partnerships and got some good programming in place. And we're going to focus this summer on making sure that our young girls are equipped with an amazing toolkit that will help them get through, one, those that are in college, right? Helping them determine their internships and get placements and walk into these corporate jobs if that's their boardroom of choice. If it's an entrepreneurial opportunity that's available, we're helping them connect with businesses. And so we're working on the Brown Girl Toolkit this summer. And so super excited about that. Lots of good things going on.
So we want to help you with that. And from the Sister Covenant and from all of the sisters on this call, we would like to present you with a big check, but more of a token of our love as we continue to sow seeds into those young women. So do we have the big check? We want to present you this morning, Melissa, and we thank you for coming on with $200 for Brown Girls in the Boardroom as you continue to transform these young women in their lives.
Thank you so much, Pat. This is amazing. It helps. It's needed. And I appreciate you guys for being intentional about being an impact in the lives of these young girls. Thank you so much.
Well, you're going to come back to us in a month or two, I'm sure, and tell us what you're doing with them. And this isn't a one and done. So you'll be back and we'll see how we can partner moving forward, because they are definitely, it sounds cliche, but they are our future. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you so much. Love you, Pat.
Bye. So $200 to Brown Girls in the Boardroom. As we announced on the last podcast, we are partnering with UNCF, and certainly UNCF is no stranger in the world of charitable giving. But in this season, as Gwen Hewitt mentioned on the last podcast, we are in the season of COVID. And when America catches a cold, Black America catches COVID. So certainly UNCF is known for scholarships, but they have in this last 12, 13, 14 months, they have been ready to assist students with emergency funds, anything from a $50 bus ticket home to where they live, to food and food pantries. So what Sister Covenant has embarked upon in partnership with UNCF is providing dollars to that emergency fund for students all across the country. So if you are interested in doing just that and partnering with the Sister Covenant, please go on our website. You can purchase your Sister Covenant merchandise, that beautiful merchandise right there that you see on the screen. And for every $100 that you purchase, 10 of it will go directly to UNCF, to that emergency fund that I just mentioned. But listen, if you choose not to purchase the merchandise, just go to our charitable giving tab and you can make a donation, and we'll make sure it gets directly to UNCF. So our giveaways. We have a giveaway contest, as you know, and we are excited every podcast to just tell you a little bit about the rules. So all you have to do to participate is like and share our latest Facebook stream, subscribe to the Sister Covenant on Apple Podcasts and YouTube, join by joining our email list on our website, and then comment done on this image, and that will be posted on Saturday before the stream. So tell us, who is our giveaway contest winner for this podcast? Kiera Nixon. Yay, Kiera. I know Kiera. So we are going to make sure that Kiera gets her beautiful bling Sister Covenant Mask. Awesome. Thank you, Kiera. Now, if you want to be a part of the Sister Circle conversation, which is always rich, please join us by going to Facebook, open the Facebook on your phone or computer, search the Sister Covenant, find the Groups tab, click on the group title, the Sister Circle, and then join that group. It is just that simple. Now, I am so excited to welcome our first guest to the Sister Covenant, Angel Cornelius. Angel Cornelius is the founder and CEO of 276 Maison, or Maison 276. She is a phenomenal woman, and she believes in us being our best self. So she inspires women to celebrate their own version of beauty and not someone else's version of beauty. Angel, welcome to the Sister Covenant.
Good morning, Pat. Thank you so much for having me. I am honored to be here with you.
Well, we are so honored to be here with you. You are absolutely beautiful, beautiful. So tell us, we have your bio, but tell us, how did you get started with healthcare products and, body products? What inspired you? What got you to this place?
So I've always been a bit of a beauty DIYer before that was even a term. I've always bought products off the shelf and added things to them, particularly for my hair, because I had such difficulty finding things that worked for me. I began my silver journey as a child. My mother actually discovered my first silver strand. I was so young, she was still combing my hair. And I would also add things to the skincare products because they were not quite as moisturizing as I wanted. And so eventually, I just decided to create my own products. I decided to detox my entire beauty system. I stopped relaxing my hair around 2013 and just started creating my own products for my own personal use, never intending to sell them to anyone. But my friends discovered I was making skincare products, and they actually were the ones who wanted to purchase things from me. And I had to create an Etsy store just to be able to sell skincare products to my friends. And so that began my entrepreneurial journey.
Tell us about the name. I'm intrigued. Maison 276. What inspired you to come up with that name?
Yeah, so I am a NOLA girl. I was born and raised in New Orleans, and Maison is French for house or home, and 276 is the street address of the house where I grew up.
So let's talk about the hair. As women, hair defines us in many ways. And what's so beautiful these days, you can see hair in every shape, every color, every style. We're not in a box like we were perhaps 20 years ago. So tell us about your hair, and also what have you come up with to help women be their best versions of themselves?
Well, as I indicated, I've been on this silver journey really my whole life, and I've kind of grown up with this hair and understand the challenges of having silver hair. And silvers and blondes have the same hair concerns, and that's basically how to keep your hair vibrant and healthy. Most of the products for this category are known as the purple shampoos. And the problem with adding color to colorless hair is that it eventually takes on those hues, and you get what I affectionately called old lady blue hair. And so because of my own personal frustration with those products, I created a system, again, initially just for myself, that would keep my hair vibrant, moisturized, and would not add unwanted color. And so that those products that I created in my kitchen eventually became what is now known as the Maison 276 three-step system. And it is a clean, plant-based system to take care of your hair, to keep your silver or your blonde vibrant and bright, and also to address the naturally occurring changes that take place in our hair as we mature. Our hair is just like our skin. It changes as we get older, and beauty doesn't really talk a lot about that. And so when we start going through these natural changes, women often wonder, well, what's wrong with me? Why is my hair brittle? Why is it drier? Why do the products I use no longer work? And that's because it's different hair. There's nothing wrong with you or your hair. It's just going through naturally occurring changes, and you need products that address those changes. And that is the Maison 276 three-step system. And if you are not silver or blonde, these products still work for you. You can still use the shampoo and the conditioner. The pre-shampoo is the product that is specifically for silver or blonde hair, but the shampoo and conditioner anyone can use.
Angel, I appreciate you sharing that. I remember turning the first set of round numbers, which is 50.
Right.
I can say that number now, 50.
Right.
And I remember my hair starting to get a little brittle. I'd never had any hair issues at all. And I went to my hairdresser and I just went on a rant. Don't understand. I'm doing the same thing. I curl it. You know, I put my hairspray on it. I've not changed my regimen in 20 years. She
Right.
listened to me patiently and she said, but you've never been 50.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
thought that was really mean at the time. You hit the nail on the head. Everything changes, and so
Everything
does the hair.
changes. And that's
Everything
perfectly
changes.
fine. It's just the things you used when you were 20 are not going to work when you're 40 or 50 or 60. And each decade, they may change a little bit. One of the things women, you will often hear women, especially when they get that first silver hair, they'll say things like, oh my God, it's so disrespectful. It has a mind of its own. Actually, it is a completely different hair. It is completely different because when your hair stops producing melanin, which is the thing that gives it color, it is a completely different hair. The texture changes, and it's not disrespectful, it's doing its own thing because it is not the same as that darker hair. So once you understand that, then you realize, okay, there's absolutely nothing wrong with me. This is all a perfectly normal part of the maturing process, and we are here to celebrate that.
So, what I must talk about now is your skincare line. Can you guys see that? This is called, again, a part of the 276 or the Maison 276 line, Pomegranate Kiss. Oh my gosh, this has changed my life. I use it every night and it's getting kind of scarce. So I'm going to order some more, but it is absolutely amazing. Tell us about the skincare products.
So I began creating the skincare products because I had leftover raw ingredients after making the potions for my hair when I was creating products in the kitchen. And so I had all these leftover ingredients and realized, oh, I can make body butter and soap with this stuff. And that's actually how I began making skincare products and selling them to my friends. One of my son's friends was also using the product. And when she was hired by Essence to curate their beauty box, she offered me the opportunity to participate. Now, of course, I had no idea what that meant. I was still creating products in my kitchen, still working my full-time job at Texas Children's, working 50 hours a week. This was seriously a little weekend hobby. And so I said, yeah, sure, I'll be happy. You know, for us, Essence is everything. And to have the Essence editors give me the stamp of approval, I'm all in. And she said, well, Miss Cornelius, we're going to need over 10,000 units. And I was just like, oh my God, it's a good thing we didn't have Zoom because the look on my face did not match the words coming out of my mouth. And so that's actually what launched me into commercial manufacturing and having to find a manufacturer to create my products. And that is actually what launched the company in March of 2016. And so I'm so grateful to Essence for that opportunity. And so I started going to beauty shows and events, and women, they love the skincare product, but they kept asking about my hair. And that's when I realized, well, I might be a hair unicorn, but obviously there are a lot of women who have the same hair concerns. And after about 6 months, I said, oh, I need to do a hair care product. And that is what created, what launched the creation of the three-step system. I went to my manufacturer and said, these are the products I make in my kitchen to take care of my own hair, and we need to create a system around that. And that is what we did. We entered that three-step system in 2019. We entered a global contest by QVC called the Big Find, and there were over 650 applicants, about 75 winners. And of those 75, 35 were chosen for on-air launch. And Maison 276 was one of the brands that were launched on air. And so we launched our QVC partnership actually a year ago in February of 2020. And so that was another very pivotal moment in the very short life of our company. So I am so grateful for that partnership. And so that's how the Pomegranate Kiss led into the three-step system. And that fragrance is actually a custom fragrance that I created, thinking that I needed to come up with something for the Christmas holidays. And a friend of mine, one of my sorority sisters, sent me an email, and she's like, I think you need to keep this fragrance around past Christmas. And, you know, it just shows the power of community. And when you have people who support you and just want to see you succeed, that one simple email is the reason Pomegranate Kiss was even around for me to send to the Essence editors. So just, you know, there's so many people that I am grateful for and continue to be grateful for on this journey.
Well, Angel, I'm looking at your shelf and it says beautiful behind you, and you are simply beautiful, very beautiful.
Well,
so
thank
tell
you.
us, how can our audience connect with you so they can get some of these products that are absolutely amazing?
Well, thank you. So our website is maison276.com. As you see on the screen, you can also follow us on Instagram, the same handle, and on Facebook. And if you have any questions, you can always just contact us through the website and we will respond.
Well, your bio and your information is also on our website, thesistercovenant.com, and it will be there. So you can also find Angel. And she was so kind. She is blessing us at the Sister Covenant with 2 gift boxes. So before we started this podcast, we decided who would be the first 2 to receive the gift box from Maison 276. And at the end of the podcast, we are going to announce those winners because we already know who they are, Angel. Thank you so much. You got to promise to come back into the Sister Covenant and keep us updated with everything you're doing, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you, Pat. I appreciate this.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye-bye. Bye.
She is absolutely amazing. So we have to continue to follow her. And as she said, it takes a village. So she is doing some amazing things. And now the Sister Covenant is connected to that. I feel so excited. Thank you so much, Angel. Now we have 2 wonderful, phenomenal women with us. Our first doctor in the house is Dr. Candace Kennedy. Dr. Candace Kennedy is the owner of Total Foot Care and Wellness Clinic right here in Jacksonville. She hails from St. Louis, Missouri, and she has completed her undergraduate and her got her medical degree from Barry University School of Podiatry. She has an awesome story that she's going to share with us, and she's going to tell us how we keep our feet at this age looking good. Our next guest that will be joining us is Dr. Lorraine Polite Clark. And Dr. Polite Clark is the co-owner and vice president of Sutel Dental Center and Today's dentistry. She shares that honor with her life partner, Dr. Benny Clark. And I want to welcome both of these beautiful, beautiful women to the Sister Covenant. Good morning, sisters.
Good morning.
Good
Good
morning, Dr. Candace. Good morning, Dr. Lorraine.
How are you?
How are you both this morning?
Great. Thanks so much for having us.
Well, thank you for coming. We want to dive right in to what it is you do, and I want to set the stage. So I'll put myself out there. In my 20s, Candace, if the shoes at the bootery had a sale on, and it didn't matter that they may be a size or a half size too small, they were coming home with me because it was all about them looking cute. So that I want to set it up with that. And Lorraine, we talked about this. This is my dentist, y'all. So, I grew up in a home, and maybe some of you can't relate to this, but my teeth were good. I didn't chew gum. I didn't drink soda because that was too much. My parents didn't allow that. Only the adults got the Coke in the house, if that makes sense. And my siblings went to the dentist because they had cavities. I never had a cavity. So I didn't go to my first dental appointment until I was grown and paying for it myself with my own benefits. Mm-hmm. So what was important to me, ladies, when I thought about self-care, I thought about feet and I thought about teeth, mm-hmm. and how sometimes they're last, mm-hmm. in what we do. So talk to us, both of you. Tell us about your journey here and tell us about why you chose and Candace, I know you have a real interesting story. So I'll start with you. How did you get here? And tell me about what you do.
Thank you so much again for having us. It's such an honor. So yes, I always wanted to be a doctor. I have physicians in my family. My mother's also a registered nurse, so medicine's just in my blood. And at the time, I actually wanted to follow my grandfather's footsteps of dentistry. And so while attending Hampton University to get my master's, my dean, who is also a dentist, he said, I really think that you should consider podiatry. And I knew nothing about podiatry at all. I was so ignorant to the profession. I thought all they did was cut toenails, and I thought that would be boring. So my dean set me up to shadow 2 Black male podiatrists who own their own practice. And literally after an hour spending the day with them, I was like, oh my gosh, I had no clue that podiatry did all these amazing things. And I was hooked. I was sold. So I prayed on it and decided to spend that weekend, not at the club, but instead in the library at the computer, applying to podiatry school. And I said, God, if this is meant, I'm going to get in. And sure enough, within a matter of months, I started getting acceptance letters. And that's when I knew that, that was what was meant for me. And so, yes, I went through my journey, and I'm so happy that I chose podiatry. After podiatry school, I then went to Brooklyn, New York, where I did my surgical residency, which is where I also met my husband. And from there, we went to Irvine, California, in Orange County, California. And that's where I did a really competitive sports medicine fellowship. And it was also very heavy in surgery. During that time, I, started looking for a full-time job right around January when I had about 6 months left of the fellowship. And I accepted a position at a private practice here in Jacksonville. I thought it was going to be this amazing, magical first job. And unfortunately, after about a few weeks of being there, I realized it just went against everything I believed in as a person, as a doctor, you name it. So I put in my notice. Mind you, my husband and I had just relocated to Jacksonville 3 months prior. We didn't really know a lot of people. And so I was very nervous to call my husband to let him know that I put in my 2-week notice. But it was for the best because that's what prompted us to start our practice. And it's grown, and we feel so blessed to be able to serve Jacksonville podiatry patients.
Thank you, Candace. Lorraine, and you guys have a lot of commonality that I didn't even think of until just now. We're going to talk a minute about that as well. But Lorraine, tell us about your journey.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much, Pat, Patricia, for this wonderful honor, delight, and pleasure to participate in the conversation this morning. So, as you know, my father, Dr. Leroy Polite, is a dentist, and he was the pivotal and main reason that I'm a dentist today. My mother's a nurse, so both of them are servants. So always saw them serving our community. So once I matriculated through FAMU and pharmacy, my last year, I decided that I did not want to stand on my feet for 12, 14, 16-hour days. And so with loving and careful encouragement, my parents advocated for me to go back to school once I graduated to dental school. And so was accepted at Meharry Medical College in Nashville. And after my second year, decided that I knew that at the end of graduating, I wanted to be in Florida. So transferred to University of Florida. And that's where I received my degree. Once I did a stay in the Tampa area for a couple of years, decided to come back home to Jacksonville. My father was ill, and we made the decision, myself and my partner husband, to come back to Jacksonville. And 26 years later, we are here. I love it. Cannot imagine being anywhere else. Cannot imagine serving any other community. And so we have two locations. One is what I call a historical landmark location, and the other is the flagship location.
So ladies, let's talk. Why don't teeth and feet get the respect that they deserve?
I'll let you go first, Dr. Clark.
Absolutely. Pat, for most of us, Black folks, we have not historically had access to dental care. And when we did have access, we were afraid of pain. Many of us have dental phobia and dental anxiety, even when we do have means. And so typically in our culture, if something doesn't hurt, if something doesn't bother us, why address it, especially as it pertains to the mouth? The other piece of that is, unless you have dental insurance, dental procedures, dental treatment, dental care can be extremely expensive. So it really can be a deterrent to going to the dentist if you don't have a means to pay for it.
For podiatry, I think it's safe to say we're probably one of the most misunderstood specialties in medicine, not just amongst patients, but even amongst other clinicians. I'm always amazed when I do marketing at primary care doctors' offices or other specialties offices. And once I just kind of break down what we offer as podiatrists, they're all just so shocked because podiatrists are kind of just known to only cut toenails. And I really try to educate everyone that we literally handle everything on the leg, ankle, and foot. Also, the medical, surgical management of it. So a lot of times people are walking around, especially since COVID, with people working at home and walking around barefoot or in, not the most supportive shoes. We're seeing a lot of people with a heel pain, whether it's plantar fasciitis or Achilles tendonitis. And a lot of people just go online to Dr. Google to try to, treat themselves, not realizing there's a specialty called podiatry that can help take care of these issues for them. So one of our biggest goals with our practice is to really educate people on what a podiatrist is, what we can offer, and that literally anything you possibly think could happen to your leg, ankle, or foot, you should definitely go see your podiatrist. And try not to doctor yourself, because a lot of times it's stuff that is just not going to allow you to get better. And it also may cause more harm than good. So I think for podiatry, it's just not understanding our profession. And that's what deters people from coming.
Talk to us about, and this is for either or both of you, other conditions that you can detect through teeth. One of the ones that come to mind for me, Candace, with the feet, diabetes. It's very, impacted by the care that you give your feet. You talk about clipping toenails. That could be life life or death, right? And Lorraine, I know through dental work, you can tell if someone really has a serious medical condition.
Mm,
Tell us about some of those.
mm. Dr. Kennedy, do you like to go first?
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Clark. As you mentioned, I would say diabetes and peripheral vascular disease are probably the two most important things that we're able to detect as podiatrists. I can't tell you how many times I've had a patient come in for a service called routine foot care, which is an insurance covered visit every 61 days where a patient will come in, we'll examine them, check their skin temperature, circulation, their skin texture, you name it. And during these visits, we are usually the first person to actually detect signs of diabetes, as you mentioned, something as simple as decreased sensation or maybe a callus or wound formation. And so as soon as we see something that is kind of concerning, we'll definitely get together with the primary care provider to make sure that appropriate blood tests are ordered. And unfortunately, several times not, does come back that the patient is positive for diabetes. And that simple routine foot care visit, as you mentioned, can literally be a matter of life and death. It prevents amputations, loss of life. So it's just so important. Also, if we see that the circulation, the pulses are not as strong as we'd like them to be, or maybe they're too strong than they should be, that can also indicate an issue with their arteries or their veins. And so again, it's just so important even if you don't have any pain per se, if you are at risk person, get your podiatrist. You could be seen on a regular basis, and it really helps to prevent, again, loss of limb or life.
In terms of dental care, diabetes, number one, heart disease, as well as oral cancer, which is on a rise in African Americans. In terms of diabetes, we can often see signs based on changes that we see in the gum tissue, bleeding, swelling, so forth. And in terms of heart disease, bacteria in the mouth can travel to the bloodstream and can actually cause elevated blood pressure levels, can certainly cause severe connections to heart disease. Oral cancer, because it is on the rise in our community, when we're able to detect it early based on things that we see in the mouth, white patches, soreness that doesn't go away, sometimes loose teeth, we're able to share with our patients things that we see in terms of this so that they can get the care that they need to prevent loss of a jaw or loss of other structures in the mouth.
So you both have private practices, so you're entrepreneurs in addition to being brilliant. But you're also working both with your husbands. What is that like? Anybody want to talk about that?
Sure. Easy. we easy because we are never in the same location at the same time. Pat, as you know, we have 2 locations. And aside from us having 2 physical locations, we decided early on that there are certain responsibilities where I have strengths, and there are certain responsibilities where my partner spouse has strengths. And so we do our very best to stay in our own lane. And when we stay in our own lane, not only is it good for the practice, it's good for the patients overall. And certainly it has been good for our almost 30-year marriage.
That's awesome. Candace?
Just to piggyback off of what Dr. Clark said, we've been in practice for about 6 years now, and we have 5 locations, so I never see them during the week. So that definitely helps just to have that separation. But as Dr. Clark mentioned, you have to know your strengths and weaknesses. For me, I handle the clinical side of everything. I also handle the marketing. I never knew I was a good marketer until we had the practice, but it comes naturally to me. My husband is the business side of everything. And so I try to respect, what he does in that regards. I don't really have a strong, business understanding like he does with him having an MBA. So I think just both of us being very respectful of each other's strengths. I think our biggest challenge is when we are having a meeting and me looking at him and saying, okay, right now I'm meeting with not my husband, but with my business partner. and not taking things so personal and so sensitive. He's very good at not being bothered by that. And so if anything, it's been something that I am learning every single day. It's a work in progress. But again, just respecting each other's strengths and then coming to the table and trying to leave any stuff that happens to deal with the practice at home, away and not bringing it home so it doesn't impact your relationship is really important.
So ladies, you care for everybody. You're the epitome of what we talk about when we talk about nurturing the world. You literally nurture the world, the community. How do you fill your cups? What do you do for self-care for you?
Dr. Clark?
Sure, absolutely. So a couple things. The very first thing, Pat, is I have to find solitude. I have to get into a position of solitude. When I get into a position of solitude, I can't hear anything, no distractions. I am listening for God's voice, and I'm listening for his voice so that he can give me the rest. He can give me the peace. He can give me the release that I need to go back, to return, to function as a wife, as an employer, as a mother, as a friend, as a servant of this amazing community. So certainly spending time in solitude so I can hear God's voice. Second, I would say laughter with my family, my friends, my patients, whoever it is. Laughter is so important. It allows me to release those endorphins so that I feel good. And I would actually, the last thing I would say is music. I love music, love all genres of music. And in addition to that, I love to dance. So those are probably the three things. Solitude, so I can hear God's voice, hear his instructions for me, hear his purpose for me. Laughter with those around me, my loved ones, and music.
Thank you, Dr. Lorraine. Dr. Candace.
I would say for me, it's been a work in progress. I'm a somewhat new mother. I have an 11-month-old baby. So just kind of learning to juggle and give myself grace with, juggling being a mom, still learning how to be a mother, being a wife, also having a practice and being responsible for my patients and our 6, doctors that I have to oversee. So it is very overwhelming. I'm still trying to learn how to find time for myself and not feel guilty about it. I think just we as women in general, we just feel guilty for taking care of ourselves. So I just do something as simple as, when I get home, I just spend 10 minutes in my car. And as Dr. Clark said, I'll just listen to some good music and just jam out. Or maybe just stopping at a coffee shop and having a chai tea latte at Southern Grounds, for just 20 minutes before I go home. And then once I've replenished myself, just really spending time with my family, just taking in my growing baby and spending time with my husband, utilizing our nanny when we can so that, my husband and I can have some adult time. So, again, it's a work in progress, but just giving yourself that opportunity to fill your cup in whatever way you need to.
Well, I feel honored to have you both as a part of my village, my tribe. Dr. Lorraine was one of the first friends that I told about the gift and the birth and what God was saying to me about this platform that we're on right now today. So it is truly my honor to have you, my sister, on the Sister Covenant, and Dr. Candace, my neighbor, you and your beautiful family, including that 11-month-old that will be a year old next week, right?
Yes.
You're blessed beyond measure. You both are. So thank you for gracing us this morning. Thank you for all of that great information. Your information, again, is on the sistercovenant.com. So everybody in Jacksonville, you guys can go get the best dentistry care. We didn't even talk about getting our teeth beautiful for the spring in whatever cosmetic ways that you offer, but they can contact you for that. I know you will help them. Dr. Polite Clark and Dr. Candace, we want to get our feet sandal ready for the summer. So let's get in touch with these two phenomenal ladies. Ladies, thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. We are living our best lives, and we are taking care of us first, because that is what the Sister Covenant is about, filling our own cup first so we can be the best versions of ourselves from head to toe. Now, I want to bring into the studio my ride or die sisters, Dr. Anita and Tanya Grace. Dr. Anita is, of course, a medical contributor, or the medical contributor for the Sister Covenant, and she is an internal medicine doctor in South Florida. And Tanya Grace is our spiritual and wellness contributor right here in Jacksonville, Florida. So, ladies, join me. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, ladies. Weren't these women so far just phenomenal? Just great information. So inspiring.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
You ladies look amazing this morning. Look at
Takes
you.
one to know one.
Beautiful.
It's spring.
It's spring. So, are we ready to talk a little bit about sex?
Absolutely.
So we like to kind of put some things in a closet and lock it away and say, shh, don't talk about that in mixed company. Well, we're mature women, and sure we do, because to be the best versions of ourselves is a holistic picture, right? It's no fragments and segments. It's a holistic picture. So we are very fortunate this morning to have a mighty duo who are twins. Dr. Anita, do you want to do the honors to introduce these dynamic doctors?
Absolutely, would be my pleasure. These dynamic sisters, they're actually twins, Dr. Tedra and Dr. Tadra. Dr. Tedra Anderson Brown is a behavioral health medical director for Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina. She's a psychiatrist and an amazing sister. And then Dr. Tadra Anderson Rose is a chief medical officer of Memorial Hospital Miramar, right in the city where I reside. And she is an OBGYN by trade, and they are simply amazing.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Dr. Tedra and Tadra. How are you?
Doing well this morning. Thank you, Pat. Really well and very blessed to be here.
Well, we are blessed. We are totally blessed to have you both. So you must tell us, because definitely people out there in the Sister Covenant are wondering, how do two sisters both become doctors and, be individuals, but yet journey together? Because you all just have an amazing relationship. I can see it. So tell us how you got to be who you are and how you got there.
I think I will start as the younger twin. Our mother is a nurse, and I heard some of the young ladies earlier say that both of their mothers were nurses as well. So we have been in the fold of medicine for quite some time. But my mom really just exposed us to really trying to be the best servants that we could. We grew up in the church, and medicine was a natural extension because we both enjoyed science, mathematics, and STEM-related activities. But she didn't really push us, but she did say that we would, that God had, really sown into her that we would really do great things, and we would try to, she wanted us to be our best selves. And so as we matriculated to college, and we both went to Duke University, which is a great pre-medicine program for anyone who's looking. We really did flourish there and really made the decision independently, both of us, to go into the field of medicine and to apply to medical school. And by the grace of God, we both were able to not only to get in, but to be successful at that. My sister having stayed at Duke and gone to Duke's medical school actually for free, so that is possible. And I went to the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having us here I think the other thing that I would add is that our circle, and so it's so wonderful to have this sister circle, our village really encouraged us as well, to just reach higher, think bigger, and to have that confidence that we can make a difference. I think we're both helpers. As women, we tend to be helpers by nature, but they really encouraged us to use those gifts and strengths in a way that would positively impact our community. And so here we are.
So ladies, tell us. So we're talking about self-care. Obviously, our female self-care is of the utmost importance. I'm not going to say it's more important than any other self-care, but it definitely ranks high. So let's talk about the routine, right? And I say routine, mammograms and gynecological pap smears and those kinds of things. We know those are important. But what else do we need to know so we know everything is functioning as it should so that we can enjoy our best sexual lives? So let's start with that.
Okay. Yeah, so I think that's a great start, Pat. I think one of the things that's so key is for us to understand and really accept that sexual health is really part of who we are and what we need to strive for, in terms of really not ignoring that part of ourselves, our bodies, and our lives. So I think that, one of the first things that I've always shared with patients as well as friends and family members is let's embrace our sexuality. When we talk about sexuality, we're really talking about healthy relationships, first with ourselves, with our God, right? God actually created us to be sexual beings, so there's no real reason to fear that or to be embarrassed by that. But it also really requires us to understand our bodies. So many people don't take the time to look at themselves, to examine themselves, to know what would be their normal. And then we share stories one with another, and we think, oh, if I don't have, something exactly like my friend or my sister, then maybe I'm not normal. So I do think it's important for us to have that sense of exploration and understanding about who we are, what we are in terms of our own bodies, and then have a real live conversation with our healthcare providers. Don't let them off of the hook. That's what we're here for. Have those conversations about what is normal. What should I, at this age, should I still have, let's say, a vaginal discharge, which actually most women should want to have, because it does actually help to lubricate the vaginal tissues, so that when we are engaging in sexual activity, that it could be more pleasurable and not as painful as what we hear about. And so there are certain things, that are normal types of discharges, and we want our patients and our family members and our friends to understand what is considered normal. It shouldn't have an odor. It should be more clear, those types of things. And so I think that there are other, avenues that we have that we don't always in a sexual realm want to delve into, but I think for our self-care that are so important.
So Dr. Tadra, I have some questions. And I love what you said already. We have to look at our bodies and know what's normal, what's not normal, and also trust our healthcare providers. So I'm gonna dig a little deeper. I have a little gray hair here, but with the gray hair comes some vaginal dryness. Let's just get real. And I want to just revisit it. You kind of mentioned it a little bit, but let's talk a little bit more about vaginal dryness, because it can interfere with our ability to be intimate with our mates. And so can you talk a little bit about vaginal dryness for us, please?
Absolutely. I think that, we have to understand that there are many different causes for vaginal dryness, and it really depends on what your cause is, the etiology of that. So as we age, some of the vaginal dryness can actually be a hydration issue. We're not really great about hydrating in general, particularly if you're working out or you're working full days. And so making sure that you're drinking properly so that, the vagina is really like skin, but it's turned inside out. And so we want to make sure that we're getting properly hydrated so that we can have some of that lubricant that we want to have in the vagina, that it can actually flush through. Other reasons for vaginal dryness can be infection. Something as simple as a yeast infection can cause some of the vaginal dryness that women may have. And I don't really recommend self-treatment without seeing your physician, but it could be something as simple as like a yeast infection. Other types of infections. So that's why it's really important for us to go and get those annual examinations. Even if we don't need a pap smear every year, we still need to go to make sure that the tissue is very healthy and that there are no signs and symptoms of infection. And then as we age, we do lose some of the estrogen in our bodies. Our ovaries don't make as much estrogen. And because of that, the tissue can become a little bit more thinned out and less elastic. And so that's another common cause of vaginal dryness. The good news is that there are several ways to treat it that don't necessarily require medications. And so again, I mentioned hydration. Exercise can really help, things that will help pelvic engorgement. So lower body exercising can actually help. Utilizing vaginal moisturizers, such as some of the products like Replens or water-based jellies during intercourse can also be helpful. And then there are a small subset of women who will need to utilize some estrogen products. The good news is they don't need to be oral. You can actually use it directly into that space. So vaginal estrogen products are also a possibility if there are no contraindications. So again, utilizing your healthcare provider to have those conversations, I think, is important. But there's definitely several things that women can do on their own.
Thank you so much. I am just in awe because you both have I've read your bios and you guys have just a wealth of knowledge in this field. So we probably have 100 questions, but I would like to ask Dr. Tedra, can you discuss any psychological or emotional factors that lead to painful intercourse and possibly a decreased libido?
Sure, and thank you so much. All I can say is to God be the glory. We don't do what we do for, accolades or anything like that, but it certainly is nice to be recognized. So yeah, one of the things that I think is important is to understand that there are some emotional and psychological factors that can be associated with sexual health and issues. And so it's really important for us to be in tune with that. Sometimes it can actually be mental health disorders, for example, such as anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, and even trauma. And some of the ways that we see that are, for example, for persons who may have depression, in addition to kind of feeling sad or down, they may have decreased sex drive and decreased interest. And then sometimes the medications that we might use to help would also then create some sexual side effects. So it's really important to understand that and not stop medications if your doctor recommends it, but to work with them towards strategies to have a balance. We know that, for example, people with anxiety disorders can have pain on penetration because they're more self-conscious, they may be more worked up. So it's important to understand that. We also will see that folks with trauma, who unfortunately have been victims of sexual abuse, and those who may have the highs and the lows with depression, as well as being what we call manic or hypomanic, they can actually have increased sexual feelings and increased sexuality, heightened sense of desire, but then their ability to experience pleasure may be lower. The good news in that, though, is that as we are being intentional about our sexual health, which is really, really important, that we have to understand that there are benefits from treatment. And that treatment can vary from person to person So I always will recommend talk therapy, talking with a licensed professional individually, and perhaps even with your partner as a couple if necessary. Medication sometimes may be necessary. And then really in combination with self-care. We've talked a lot about self-care. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And as a part of that healing, hope, and restoration, we as women really need to be able to take care of ourselves and know that it's not selfish to do so. So taking that time out, prioritizing ourselves, and doing those things that are enjoyable. And the reason that's important in terms of our sexual health is that those things that we do that increase our physical health and well-being, like exercise, activity, a lot have already been mentioned, will also improve our emotional well-being, so our psychological state, as well as our sexual well-being.
And thank you so much, Dr. Tedra. I just wanted to just quickly ask, you mentioned that May is Mental Health Awareness Month, but what can we do to help overcome the stigma of going to a mental health professional, like during, this month or beyond?
That is an absolutely fantastic question. And I think what we're doing today really helps. We're speaking out that, any of us can have challenges. We're human. We all go through things. I do like to share that I'm a recovery ally. And when I say that, it means that I'm the friend and family member of persons with substance use and mental health challenges who are continuing to live and grow and thrive every day. And so I do share my own personal experiences, my family experiences, because I want to normalize that mental health. And it doesn't have to carry with it a diagnosis, but any issue or challenge that you feel like you're not your best self, that we want to normalize help seeking. HELP, seeking behavior. Just like we would if somebody had high blood pressure or diabetes and their pressure was high or their blood sugar was high, we say, you need to go to see someone about that. In addition to exercising, eating healthy, getting enough rest. Similarly, we need to begin to think about mental health challenges and diagnoses in the same way. The brain, the head, the body are connected. And so how we feel, we need to begin to think about that connection and also getting help as a part of that. And then we also need to show ourselves and those around us compassion and understand that words matter. So committing ourselves to not using stigmatizing language, not labeling folks, and then also encouraging ourselves and our loved ones to seek help when needed, and knowing that that help will work, and we just have to stick with it.
Wow, what powerhouse dynamo ladies we have here. And you know what? I'm actually taking notes. So thank you. I love you all. Yes, exactly.
If I could just add on that note, if I might, Tanya's question, just a reminder too, that we're in an age of COVID, which has just been a burden for so many of us. And we've been going at it now for, 12, 15 months, depending on where you live. And so I think recognizing all the things that Dr. Tedra has said is so critically important for all of us, whether we have a diagnosis or not. We're all impacted. I certainly have COVID fatigue, and we have, signs and symptoms where we have these ebbs and flows. So it's really important to recognize that in ourselves and to get help, and to really be able to speak about that. I think that's really, really important, particularly in this day and age.
Totally agree. And I don't know how much time we have, Pat. I have one other question that I wanted to kind of ask. If we just maybe a minute or two, but I think it's important to address sexually transmitted diseases, Dr. Tedra. A lot of times we don't like to talk about it, but could you just kind of briefly tell us when we should be tested for them, please?
Absolutely. STIs or sexually transmitted infections are still very, very common. The recent data was just published in April, and it goes back a couple of years, but it does show that for another year in a row that sexually transmitted infections are on the rise. So I still recommend, as I mentioned earlier, everyone should be going for their annual checkups. Even if you don't need a pap smear every year, as we know that those recommendations have changed over the last several years, you still do need to go. So if you're sexually active, you should really talk about that with your physician and get checkups for that. They can do that very, very easily during the time that you're there and to get those checked out. But additionally, if you have a new sexual partner, if you have any discomfort with intercourse, if you have an abnormal looking discharge. So again, we talked earlier about knowing your body and knowing what's normal for you. But if your discharge has an odor, a different color, it's associated with any type of itching or irritation, those are all reasons for you to get checked out immediately by your physician. And I do just want to say that while we're seeing that about half of the new sexually transmitted infections are in those persons age 15 to 24, that means that the other half are in those of us who are 25 and older, which includes us who are in our 50s and our 60s. It is possible to still get a sexually transmitted infection. It's possible to get a sexually transmitted infection from things other than penile penetration into the vagina. So if you're having oral intercourse or anal intercourse, those are also ways that STIs can be transmitted, sexually transmitted infections can be transmitted. So it's really important for us to know that. And the last thing I would like to add, just in terms of sexually transmitted infections, we do know that there's a little bit of a disparity in terms of those who might contract them or get treated for them. Some of that may have to do with access to care, but similarly, the same thing happens with our breast exams and our mammograms, as well as pap smears. So while the recommendations have changed recently, I always want to caution those of us who are women of color to ensure that we are directly connected with our healthcare professionals about those recommendations, because we still do see healthcare disparity when it comes to sexual health, including breast health, our gynecologic health, as well as you've heard earlier in mental health.
Ladies, this has just been fascinating, and the time gets short quick. But Tanya, did you have maybe one last question for Tedra? Because we could talk for hours on this subject alone.
Yes, Dr. Tedra, I mean, I'm just so full right now. I'm so full from both you and your sister. I mean, blessings to your mom and your family. I'm so honored that your family has just left this impactful legacy, that we're able to take part in, your family legacy right now. So Dr. Tedra, you're a psychiatrist and healthcare executive who is also busy. Is it okay, Pat, if I steal your question, asking her what fills her cup?
Sure, you can steal.
Okay. So we want to know, how you balance, work-life balance. How does that play into, managing?
Yeah, I chuckle a little bit because I think that there's no one answer, no one right answer. I would say that as I have grown and changed and matured, that answer changes, but it always does come back to being intentional and purposeful about it, and making sure that I do a self check-in to make sure that things are balanced. And if they're not in balance, what needs to happen? I've become really comfortable giving myself permission to say no. And I know as women that can be really uncomfortable, but practice it. Because it's so important for us to take time to prioritize ourselves and say, I matter to me. And if I'm my best self, then I can be there for others. Some of the things that I do have already been said. And I think that's just affirming for us as women. So prayer, meditation, I do like to journal. Sometimes I like to do nothing, and I give myself permission to sit on the couch and do nothing. I do like to walk. My sister's an exerciser. And so I know running and things like that are so important, but I walk. It just clears my head. And I like to read. the biggest thing that I love is staying connected with my family and friends. That just refuels me. It re-energizes me. You know, it corrects me if necessary, but it's also a way for me to bounce ideas off of and just be able to move forward and be me. And that connectedness really fills out and rounds out my life and who I am with my spouse, my children, my family, and my friends.
Thank you, Dr. Tedra. Dr. Tadra, same question for you.
Thanks again, Pat. For me, my sister said it, you know, I run. I love to run. It just energizes me. You know, it gives me the boost that I need to get through whatever else I'm going to be facing for that day. And actually, it actually helps me to sleep really, really well at night, which I think is important. When I don't run and I don't sleep well, then it's really hard to have my cup really full. But I also love to serve. And I think one of the ways that I'm filled and fueled is by giving back. Programs like today or serving with any number of organizations and really just being a help to my community, I think are so important. I also love to travel, particularly pre-COVID. So I'm really excited now to be post-vaccination and seeing that many others are following suit. So I'm really excited about getting back to some traveling. And then lastly, I definitely pray. So prayer and meditation and having time alone with God, which one of your person said earlier, I think is so critical and really just for me, you know, is probably the biggest thing that I do. And I'm so grateful that you don't just have to pray in any one particular position or time. So a lot of times I'm praying as well as, you know, part of my prayer life is really listening for God. And I really can do that when I'm running. So I like to run outdoors and listen for God.
Ladies, I sincerely mean this. You guys are a gift from God. You look at your bios and it's very evident that you enjoy serving. This is an extension of a ministry for you, and you're giving back and changing and transforming lives. So we thank you. You are going to come back, Dr. Tadra. You're going to come back at the end of the month and talk to our women under 30, because we know this conversation can be a little bit different for that demographic. So we're excited about that. And that's a little teaser, y'all. So ladies, thank you so much. We would say I apologize for the time getting long, but I really don't, because this was good. And I know we have blessed some folks this morning. So thank you, ladies. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. So the big announcement, who got those 2 boxes from Angel? Drum roll, please. I don't know if we have a screen with the names, but the first 2 guests to join this morning were Kim Brooks Hall and Kim Barbell Johnson. So they will receive beautiful gift boxes from Maison 276. Thank you so very much, Angel, for blessing us this morning. Ladies, as always, be bold, be brilliant, be brave and beautiful, my sisters, and be blessed. Join us on the other side for more conversation with these phenomenal women. Be blessed. Have a great Sunday.